David Isaac, composer and orchestrator. I was so excited to see Quora giving me this question of what is the importance of notes and rests to creating a music composition? This is something that I feel very passionately about, and I've talked a little bit about in the text part of this reply about why music is not about the notes and it's not about the rests, and in this video I'm going to explain why that is. So first, before we do that, I wanted to look at some of the other answers and take a look at those. So Tom Serb talks about how music, you can certainly put sound and time without using notes and rests, but how are you going to have a composition realized unless you communicate it to others through the notes? And that's very true. If you don't have the notes, then it's very hard to communicate, although it is not entirely impossible, because when you work inside of a certain genre, such as a rock genre, many of those people cannot read notes, and some of them have such good ears. I know jazz musicians that they sometimes don't need just chord symbols above something, and then they're just ready to rock. So in that case, you may not even need actual notes, just chord symbols. Let's take a look at another one. Sound and silence. I like this one because he's talking about what the notes and the rests represent. The other one was talking about it on the page, which is for communication. The other one was talking about sound and silence, which is what they represent. So, and I agree with the silence being an important part of music and having enough rests. This is a common earlier composer mistake is putting too many notes all over the place. There's several reasons why this is bad. One, the people get tired that are playing. Two, the mixer can't even do it because where is there room in the mix? And then in addition to that, if you stick a trumpet and then violins playing on top of them, and then they're in the same register and they're conflicting, and then what is the sound engineer going to do with that stuff? So I agree with that one. Silence, but not only silence just in the individual parts, but as having everybody silent are sometimes the most effective ways. In orchestra music, those are called grand pauses. You put a GP above the rest, and that lets the conductor know, just let everyone stop for a while. But even if it's nice to just have one instrument play and have everyone else silent. So there's a lot to that one. But the way that I'm approaching this question is a little bit different from those two. And it's about what you focus on that changes the result that you are going to get in your music composition. If you are thinking about notes and rests, and that is what is on your mind, then your music is going to sound notey. It's going to sound notey. I know because I've done this. I wrote someone commissioned me to write a piano thing for an anniversary, and I gave the pianist so many notes of all this Rachmaninoff, arpeggios, and all this crazy stuff, and it sounded notey. It was very hard for them to play, and on the budget that I had, because the original person, there was a big mess where the original person got injured doing yoga, and then I had to call someone else in, and they had to learn this very complicated piece in a week, and it was just a total. So if you think about it, and this is a little bit of a tangent, but Rimsky-Korsakov talks about how you want to make your music the easiest to play as possible, and when you think about notes, you make things notey. You have more things in there, and then it's not as easy to play as possible. So you see what I mean? That's how it is. But so what do you have? But then if you don't have the notes and stuff in your mind, then what do you have in there? And what do you do? How do you make a piece of music that sounds convincing and all this stuff? So I didn't really get figuring out the answer to this until I read a book called Peak, which was about the expert on experts, who is Eric Erickson. And he was talking about chess players. He was talking about chess players and how the beginners look at the pieces and think about the moves that each piece does, and the more advanced people, the more expert people, did something different, and even the grandmaster types and the master types, they did something even different from that. So, and just to show you how crazy this is because I am into this a lot because I sort of got sidetracked by the notes. And what I do is actually I do composition and orchestration, but I make a lot of my money from doing music engraving. And what that is putting the people's music into notes. And then what happened was, with Sibelius and Finale and those programs, I wasn't liking how it looked, so I said, I'm going to draw my own. And then I couldn't draw those very well, so then I started drawing letters. I draw those things. And it's the craziest thing. Okay, watch this. I want to show you something. I want to show you the program where I draw those notes. So this is like we're going into the notes in depth, so we'll check that out. Here is the program that I use, which is called FontLab 7. I love this program, and I love the people that make it. They help me so much with everything. Those are great guys. I'm trying to find just a quarter note in this thing. See, it's just all over the place because that's the way that Sibelius sort of... I use Sibelius mostly. Okay, so I'm going to go... So this is a quarter note. This is the dot that makes the quarter note. So let's go into it. Now I look into it, and what do I see here? Oops, let me go back there. I'm sorry. Let me open up the screen bigger. Look, okay, what do you see now? You see other dots. There's other dots in here telling the dot where to be placed. And these dots, you wait for this, you want to know what these things are called? These are called nodes. These are called nodes. So now that I'm doing font design and some of this note design, I traded notes. I just switched a T for a D. I went from notes to nodes. So that's how crazy this is. So it's just dots. These are the elements of stuff. The notes are the elements that make up the composition, sort of, because whatever, but then they're made out of notes. And then out of nodes, and then nodes are made out of pixels, and then pixels are made out of some type of atoms, luminescent photons, whatever. You can just go as deep in whatever as you want to, and it's not going to do an ounce. Looking at the notes a lot of times is not going to do an ounce in helping you write better music. I cannot write better music now that I know about the nodes behind the notes. So what do you think about instead of those things? So going back to that chess thing, what did the higher level chess masters think about in that book? Well, and read that book. I sort of don't want to spoil it for you, but if, read that book. It's great. It helps you understand a lot of things. But they didn't think about that. They thought about more abstract, sort of ethereal concepts, such as lines of power. So you have these grandmasters thinking about lines of power, while the earlier people are thinking about chess pieces. So you can start out with notes, and as you're learning and the different chords and such and all that stuff, it depends on how you want to do it. If you want to do more classically trained, then going the notes is okay. If you want to do rock, then sometimes there's not even a reason to do that. It's learn your instrument really well, figure out that stuff. Do stuff by ear. Listen to what people are playing and do that. But if you want to start with notes, which is a legitimate thing, you realize that is just a little bit of your starting point that's like the chess pieces, but you want to be getting towards thinking about lines of power. What are things doing? So the things in music that are like lines of power are things such as motion. And I'm going to give you a bit of a teaser here that I don't have any course or anything that I'm selling or anything like that, but I'm hoping to write these ideas down later, but I don't really want to give it to you here in an undeveloped form. There are different types of musical motion, and that has to do both with melodic and also rhythmic motion. And those can be, the simplest one is constant, dun, 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 constant pitch or constant motion, and that is a type of motion. So there's other things. There's one thing, if you listen to the opening of Gershwin's Rhapsody in Blue, there's a different type of motion. I'm not going to play that here. Okay? Other things to think about is periodicity of when things are happening. I started doing this a bit better on the last thing that I orchestrated, and it was really frustrating because prior to this I sort of didn't have a clue and I wasn't really getting it. But on this last thing that I had periodicity of several things happening at different levels of something happening, and it also depends how periodic you make it depends on what in classical is called feminine and masculine endings. If you end boom at the beginning of a beat and then you're done, then that is a masculine ending. If you end on an upbeat, such as on a 4 in a 4/4 thing, then you have a different type of ending, and you have a different type. You're developing different types of things. So 4-bar phrases, you can end on 5, where you get to 5 and you go boom and you're ending there, or you can get to 4. So there's these things of where you phrase these things. But a lot of it, I sort of wanted to go through, but I think I'm not going to do it. I wanted to maybe go through and show you how periodicity works with, say, a Mozart piece. But I feel like I'm going to be getting too far away from the Cora question, where we're already sort of far away. So other things to think about: motion, periodicity, expectation, audience. It's something okay, think about this. When you were thinking about notes, were you thinking about nodes? That there were nodes inside the notes that you were thinking about that controlled how these notes happen? No, you were just thinking about the black dot on the page and the sound that it represented. You didn't care about this other stuff. You didn't care about these things over here, right? But that's the truth of it. Anything that's done on computer has these dots that make it exist. So just like that, how you didn't care about the nodes before, the audience doesn't care about the notes. They don't care about the notes. They have other things that they care about. They care about where they heard this song, or what song when they had their first kiss, or whatever it had, whatever brings up different things like that. That's what they care about. What experience they had with this music and things, because the brain doesn't. There's a thing in the brain called, well, they called it grandmother neurons. Okay, so what these grandmother neurons do, and bear with me because this has relevance on it. Grandmother neurons, they take one dot from your and they take one dot from your retina, and each cell of inside your retina that registers each dot of color, that's connected to one brain cell in the back of your brain. Okay, so that's what so then they thought, well, maybe there's other cells, like one cell for this idea, one neuron that represents Beethoven or Mozart or some subject you learn in school and all these different things. They thought, well, maybe there's a thing like that. So they did it, and they found out that there was only very specific things, such as in Reese monkeys, they found out that for Jennifer Aniston, that when they put Jennifer Aniston, that it would make a certain cell light up. And she was one of the only subjects, for some reason, that was only activating one cell or a very few amount of cells. But every other thing they flashed in front of those monkeys was lighting up. All stuff was lighting up all over. So it wasn't just a one-to-one relationship like that. So in the audience's brains, they're not just thinking about this one piece or this one thing. They're thinking about what they've heard before. It's a big network of stuff. And that's based upon how much they know the genre and all these different things. So what you need to do is think a little bit about that stuff, a little bit about the audience stuff, about if I put this chord here, then what's the expectation? And sometimes you can do that by imagining yourself. Close your eyes, imagine yourself in the audience and listening, and what does it feel like to have all this happening? So what do notes and rests have to do? To me, they're the basic starting points. They don't have that much to do with what you want to have in your head as a composer. You don't want to have that stuff in your head. It's going to lead you down a path that is not going to help you write better music. And it's very easy to fall into that because that is the safe path. It is a safe path to just look at what notes are here and to think about those because that's less ambiguous. It's very solid. So that's why a lot of courses have to be based on that thing because they cannot teach conjectures and all types of stuff and some of the stuff that I'm talking about. They have to teach solid, precise information at the schools to show that you learned something and all that stuff, to prove it. We learned about such and such a chord with these types of notes and the 1-6-4 chord and blah, blah. So that's how it is. But the more you get into those details, you need to get yourself out of that. If you go that route, then get yourself out of there and start thinking about the other things and figure out what that is for your music. Okay, this has been David Isaac. So long. Thanks so much for watching.